I did make a video at the end of preseason talking about some of the rookies that had impressed me, but that was preseason. We're now talking about the regular season, and we're a handful of games into it, and I thought I'll talk about some rookies that have impressed me / that are exceeding expectations. Some guys that weren't supposed to be this good this early, and a couple of them will be some repeat offenders when it comes to players I've already talked about. Scotty Barnes, Josh Giddey. I'll talk about them, not in as much depth because I've talked about them, but I'm going to do it, so sorry, that's just going to have to happen. But there's some other guys as well that I think have slipped under the radar and are doing well, particularly relative to where they were picked. So that's the kind of video I want to talk about, just some of the guys that probably a little bit more low-key alongside some guys that have been good as well that haven't been as low-key. If you could drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, or if you haven't subscribed, that would be much appreciated. It's free, it helps out a ton. But let's start with Scotty Barnes, okay? I've talked about Scotty Barnes, but I don't think I've talked about his season in depth. I talked about the Raptors, but 18-9, he's playing like a damn near all-star. He was ridiculed. Oh, the Raptors picked him over Jalen Suggs. Oh my God, the Raptors picked Scotty Barnes, number 4. He can't shoot. He's not going to be a productive scorer. Maybe Draymond Green at best, even though that is very good because Draymond Green is a fantastic player. But when we're talking about offense, well, he's already a better scorer than peak Draymond Green, which we're not getting into that, but right now, Scotty Barnes looks like an all-star. He's been amazing defensively. He's been fantastic offensively. Like, that's been where he's exceeded expectations the most because you expected him to be good defensively. Did you expect him to be this good straight away? Well, you would have had to have pretty high expectations. Maybe the Raptors expected that. I didn't watch a ton of him in college, so I can't really say. But the Raptors might have expected him. But I don't think anyone was expecting him to be averaging nearly 20 and 10 for him to show off a mid-range jump shot with some smoothness. And just in general, his offensive game looks a lot smoother and just more polished than was advertised. He was seen as more of a project player on that end of the floor. Someone with vision and IQ and intelligence and the ability to pass, but not someone who's putting up 20 points a game and has done that consistently throughout the first 6 or 7 games of the season, however many he's played at this point in time. Unfortunately, he's missed the last couple of games, but I think there's been a good enough sample size to suggest, even if the scoring dips off a little bit, he's going to continue to give you, 12 to 15 points a night. He's attacking the boards. He's even shown a little bit of an inside game in terms of he's taking those smaller guys off the dribble. We saw him dunk in transition 3 steps, looking like Giannis 2.0, which is a scary sight. The Raptors in general, I said they'd be a playoff team. We're not here to talk about that, but they've been pretty good. But he was the catalyst because now they look like they're in their groove and OG Anunoby's starting to figure it out and Fred VanVleet's been good. He's been good for most of the season, but still. But he was the one who actually he was the one that kept him in the season. If he doesn't start the season as well as he did, they're probably in a much worse predicament because he was probably their best player through the first 3 or 4 games of the season. And then since then, we've seen OG and Fred and all those guys catch up. But he was the reason why they stayed competitive and why their record is where it's at right now, which you can't say for a ton of rookies. He's my rookie of the year so far because you look at Evan Mobley. Well, I'm not going to talk about Evan Mobley because he was the number 2 overall pick, the number 3 overall pick, should I say. Scotty Barnes was 4, I know, but different expectations. Mobley was hyped up all season long. He was talked about as a potential number 1, number 2, number 3 pick. Like, he was in that category of people were talking about. It's a not miss pick, right? You can't miss on Evan Mobley. Scotty Barnes shot up the ranks and was not expected to be doing this, whereas Mobley has been fantastic defensively. But he deserves a shout out because he would be my second favorite for Rookie of the Year. Those two have been great. But let's move on to a guy that hasn't been Rookie of the Year and was definitely not drafted in the top 5 like the 2 guys I just mentioned briefly. It's Herb Jones. More defense, and it's a guy that does not fill up the stat sheet like Scotty Barnes has. He's only put up 6 points, 2 rebounds a game, and unfortunately he just left the game with concussion against the Suns a couple of nights ago, so he did miss his most recent game and a half. When he got into the starting lineup after Josh Hart went out, there's a reason he stayed in it, because he was damn good. The numbers do not do it full justice. The steals, the blocks, none of that does him justice. I think the plus-minus actually is positive, which is saying something because the Pelicans have one of the worst net ratings in the league and are 1-8. So that does him some justice. Also, the fact that when he went out against the Suns, I'm not going to say they went to a wreck because of Herb Jones leaving, but they were significantly worse. He showed off defensive versatility. I see him chasing Devin Booker over screens in those games. I've seen him switching onto bigger guys. I've seen him blocking shots, getting in the passing lanes, making the right rotations consistently. This is the 35th overall pick, mind you. This is someone that has been pretty solid offensively as well, actually, in terms of driving to the rim and cutting and making those extra passes. His shot is going to be the biggest determining factor if he can be a fantastic glue guy. Because if he can shoot the ball, defensively, he's already there. Like, obviously, he's still got some room to improve, but defensively, the switchability is there. He's got some intelligence on offense. There's some of those shades of Scotty Barnes, those kind of glue guys on offense. Obviously, Scotty's doing a lot more, but you get what I'm saying? Someone who can make those extra passes, he's fine there. But if he can shoot the three ball, alongside Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, this is the kind of guy you dream of, someone that's just going to pretty much hustle every single possession. And with a 35th overall pick, I don't know if any Pelicans fans are watching this video. I don't know if Pelicans fans are watching any NBA content or the NBA in general at this point in time, and I would not hold that against you, but Herb Jones has been good. So that's a silver lining in what has been... Let's move on from the Pelicans season because let's leave it at a positive. Herb Jones is a positive. Now moving on to another guy who's been a positive for a team picked later in the draft. It's Bones Highlands. Different player, very different player, someone who's just a scoring punch. He's a guy that's going to be a six-man for the next couple of years for the Nuggets, I reckon, and then maybe going forward, he could replace Will Barton. But as of right now, he's one of the most dynamic guards on the team. I think he's starting to get his minutes because he's earned them. The numbers aren't crazy, but over time, I think we'll start to see those improve or at least stay pretty good, like those 8 to 9 points a game. But his just impact has been really nice to see. This is a Nuggets team that, without Jokic on the floor, no, they've been bad. They've been bad. I'm not going to even sugarcoat it. They've been awful with Jokic off the floor. Michael Malone said it himself. For the coach to come out and say, oh, this team's been bad whenever Jokic goes to the bench, that's kind of bad. So Bones Highland has been someone that's actually made them look less bad in those non-Jokic minutes, as opposed to, unfortunately, guys like Campazzo who haven't really been fantastic. I'm going to be honest. I mean, Bones is just someone that he has that kind of ability to create his own shot, but also come off movement, catch and shoot. He's just got that enthusiasm on offense where there's a little bit of electricity. I know. We've seen him run the pick and roll a few times, a lot of off-ball movement, a lot of just energy in terms of cutting, and a couple of times he takes players off the dribble as well. He's got something different to any other guys coming off that bench right now, and I think that's important for the Nuggets, and I think that's a reason why now he's starting to be fully in the rotation. I expect that to continue because not only is he a rookie and you want to get some development into him, but genuinely he's making an impact. He wouldn't be getting these kind of minutes if they were just worried about development. No, he is already making an impact. And then two guys that I think can kind of get talked about in tandem, two guys that have been very good, that were picked closer to the middle of the first round. Franz Wagner, who was actually top 10, and Chris Duarte have both been fantastic. They've both been fantastic. Franz Wagner, in terms of the pace, in terms of the magic, they've actually been a fun team. Cole Anthony has been really good. Mo Bamba has started to look like what you would have expected Wendell Carter Jr., but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Franz Wagner, and in general, he's kind of similar to Scotty Barnes in the sense that he was advertised as a defensive guy, a glue guy, someone that would come in and to be smart and make the right plays and to be good defensively, but not put up 14 to 15 points a game, not put up 28 points against the Minnesota Timberwolves, including absolutely detonating on that team. Franz has been really damn good, so that's been impressive. He's making the right rotations defensively. He's been as advertised defensively in terms of intelligent there, makes the right extra passes. But for him to be taking, nearly 6 threes a game, shooting over 40% from three, attacking the rim, a really smart slasher, a really smart cutter, he's been really, really damn good. And Chris Duarte, you can say the same. Different kind of players. He was advertised as a 3 and D. I can't say I've watched a ton of the Pacers, I'll be honest, but when I have watched Duarte, I've seen him show a little bit more than I would have expected this early in the season in terms of as a shot creator. And he helped them stay in those games, even though they lost a lot of those early games. But he's now looking like a really nice partner alongside Malcolm Brogdon, Karis LeVert, Domantas Sabonis, and Miles Turner. There's a lot of talent on this Pacers team that you would think they're going to start winning like they have the last 2 games. TJ Warren to come back, but Duarte putting up nearly 17 points a game, 44% from the field, 43% from 3. Playing 35 minutes tonight, which is a fantastic indicator. You look at all these rookies, Herb Jones and Highland have played the least minutes out of these guys, but even Herb Jones was starting to get like 30 minutes a night. But all of these rookies, they're playing like 35 minutes a night. Scotty Barnes, Duarte, Franz Wagner. Like, there's a reason why, because They're not just getting minutes into them for development. The Pacers are trying to win. The Raptors are trying to win. No, these guys are genuinely being some of the best players on their teams already. And Duarte has shown some shot creation. Defensively, I'm pretty sure he's been pretty sound. Again, I haven't watched a ton of Pacers games, but when I have seen Duarte play in the minutes I've watched, and also some of the highlights, he's been impressive as a shot creator. He's a mature guy, so maybe he doesn't have the ceiling of some of these other guys, which maybe he does. There have been some guys. Jimmy Butler came in as a mature guy. Damian Lillard, so who knows? You can't really just write him off because he's older that he can't progress as a player. But if this is what you're going to get for the next 10 years, you wouldn't even complain. And I can imagine it'll get better. I would be surprised if he does not get better over the next several years because that's kind of how it normally works. Shout out to all these guys. Shout out to the Pelicans fans. Herb Jones is a silver lining, and that's all I've really got to say. Have a nice day. Bye.